I want to welcome you to Gut Wisdom for Menopause. My name is Lisa Metzger, and I get a question quite often about why is our gut health so important to menopause? What does that have to do with it? Because really it's perceived as more of a hormonal issue, like our hormones are starting to decline, our estrogen's declining, our progesterone and testosterone can decline as well. So what does this have to do with gut health, and why focusing on gut health can improve our menopause symptoms? So in this video, I'm going to get into a little bit about the science of our guts and how it's tied to our menopause. So have you ever wondered why certain foods that you used to be able to eat no problem now trigger menopause symptoms? Or how you haven't changed your diet at all and you used to be slim and trim and all of a sudden you just start gaining weight? It's like, what is going on here? Why has things changed so much with the decline in our hormones? So why is it that those foods that we used to be able to eat cause that bloating, the hot flashes, and all those unpleasant side effects? So it all goes back to our gut-brain connection. So let's start with the gut microbiome. You're going to hear me say gut microbiome a lot as I coach you through your menopause. And what exactly is the microbiome? The microbiome is a collection of microbes, really teeny tiny little bacteria, viruses, fungi, protozoa that live inside of our body. And we are actually more bacteria than we are human cells. Our bacteria guide everything in our body. As you've heard me say before, Hippocrates said that all health starts in the gut, and this is why. Those gut bacteria have so many functions in our body, and if they're out of balance, those functions start to decline. So, what is happening during menopause? Why does this change so dramatically? So as we go through menopause, as when we were born, the changes started in our guts. And so things like the way we were born, if you were C-section, then you didn't get the influx of gut bacteria that you were supposed to coming down the birth canal. If you've taken lots of antibiotics in your life, if you have toxins in your life, the foods we eat, processed foods, sugar, all of that has an effect on our gut microbiome, including the decline in our hormones as we go through menopause. So there are specific bacteria that are responsible for metabolizing our estrogen. And they are called the Estrobolome. And if these bacteria are out of balance, as our estrogen starts to decline, our estrogen that we are still producing estrogen, and it still does cycle. I don't know if you've noticed that sometimes your hot flashes are more than other times. It's because our estrogen is still cycling. As we uptick in our estrogen during those times, then our receptors in our body start not reacting as well to estrogen. So we have estrogen receptors throughout our bodies, including in our skin, everywhere there's estrogen. It doesn't just affect our sex hormones or the state of, being able to reproduce and all that. It affects all our systems in our bodies. So if the estrogen isn't binding to those receptor sites, and if our gut bacteria isn't processing that estrogen like it should, we actually become what's called estrogen dominant. Now, this is kind of counterintuitive because we're told as we go through menopause that we don't have the estrogen in our bodies, that it's declining, but that's not true. We do have estrogen in our bodies, and if it's not processed right, we actually have free-floating estrogen, and that makes us estrogen dominant, and we end up with symptoms. So that's why our symptoms cycle through. When we don't process that estrogen properly because the gut bacteria is out of balance, that can cause insulin resistance. So that's why we start to gain weight. Our bodies we increase the production of insulin. Our bodies don't respond to that insulin as well. We end up getting insulin resistant and we gain weight. It also increases cortisol. When you have free-floating estrogen in our bodies not being processed, it increases cortisol, which increases our stress. So that's why we can have anxiety or depression and all kind of the mental aspects. Increased cortisol also makes us more insulin resistant, which also increases inflammation in our bodies. So maybe you experience achy joints, you just have those aches and pains that you never used to have. So you can see how this is a vicious cycle, and how focusing on our gut and the gut microbiome, and especially those estrobolomes that help us to process that estrogen, helps with our menopause symptoms. So the communication between our gut and our brain is very important. If we're not processing that estrogen properly, then it's not sending the signals to our brain. Hot flashes can be a dysfunction from the brain, which helps regulate our temperature. So you can see how it's completely linked. I don't want to overwhelm you with the science, but just know that if you focus on your gut microbiome, you can help your menopause symptoms. And I'll get more into that as we go along. If you haven't already signed up for my free gift, I do have a recipe book for you. It is Eating for Hormone Health. It'll give you some tasty recipes and give you an idea of how you should be eating to help address some of these effects that menopause can have on you. So I'm going to continue giving you tips and tricks on how you can balance your gut health and the gut-brain connection. So if you haven't already subscribed to this channel, I would love it if you subscribed and hit that bell so you can get updates when I post my new videos every week. And also, I would love it if you joined my Facebook group, Menopause Mavens. It is a group of lovely women who want to help support each other through their menopause and make it more of a magical time in their life and not the struggle that, like I like to say, this is not your mother's menopause. We know so much more these days, and we can do more natural things to help guide us through on this wonderful journey into this next phase of our lives. So I hope that was helpful. I'll pop in a few more days and we'll give you some more tips and tricks on how to make this as a beautiful transition. Ciao.